Hello there, it's Gina Gardner here, and I'm joined as usual for our genuine chats by Rachel Davidson. Both of us are #1 international best-selling authors. And we were talking yesterday about how what we would use as the theme for today. And the topic of dreams, aspirations, our desires came up. And we thought that would be a really useful thing to have a conversation about. Because how many of you who are watching this, when you were little, had the dream that you were going to be an astronaut or a pilot or that you were going to be a movie star? How many of you had the dream that you were going to live an expansive life where, you would be truly happy, that you would live happily ever after? And what's the reality now? And it's my experience from working with so many people that they start off with dreams and aspirations, and then people tell them, don't be silly, dear, that can't happen, that's not real. And then they get a job and they find themselves in a job that doesn't make their heart sing, but it pays the bills. And they get stuck in that desire that things could be different. And it's my belief that many people settle for the desire for stuff in order to try and, in some way, compensate for the fact that they're not actually living their dream. And the trouble with shopping, or whether it's cake or drinks or alcohol or drugs or shopping, is that they use that as an anaesthetic to try and dampen down those feelings of you're not living your purpose, you're not living the way in which would make you happy all the time. And those distractions are momentary. They're never enough, and you keep wanting more and more and more, which I think is one of the reasons why so many people have got wardrobes full of stuff they don't wear, cupboards full of handbags that they don't use, that they've got lots and lots of tools in the shed that are, you have every intention of using, but there's no time, and so you just end up with a collection of very expensive tools, or whatever your thing is. So I'd like to spend a few minutes in terms of, let's unpick what we mean by the dream, and what makes a dream possible. There are so many people who dream of doing something, but they get stuck in that rut of, but how am I going to pay my bills? We both recently read and been talking about a book called Lost Connections by Johann Hari. And he talks about one of the reasons for depression is that people are stuck in doing things that are not their true purpose. And he uses an example of a guy who mixes paint on a daily basis. It's a very repetitive job, and it's a job that he hates doing. He's not able to find any passion in doing the job properly.
And also he's not valued in that job.
No.
That's a key part of why that. Because mundane jobs in and of themselves are not the issue.
Not at all. It's how you feel about you. And I think for him, his biggest sense is he doesn't value himself. And when Johann is actually interviewing him, he said, well, what would you love to do? And the guy lights up and says, I'd like to have a fishing boat. I'd like to go and take people fishing and spend my time by the sea. And Johann says to him, but why don't you do that? And he is stuck in that cycle of, but what would I have to give up? And for him, it's the Mercedes is the thing that he latches onto. But, the subtext is, I wouldn't be living a life that perhaps was as materially comfortable. And I'd have to take risks and step out of my comfort zone. And he's not prepared to do that. He would rather stay in a job where he feels completely unvalued, completely bereft, really, in a soulless situation, because he's not prepared to step out of his comfort zone. And I think part of that is, what will other people think? You know, how will I be judged if I give up the material stuff and I go and do something that I love?
If I don't have that shiny Mercedes, if I just have a beat up old truck,
Yeah,
that still does the job of the Mercedes, it gets me from A to B, but will people think of me? And well, I mean, you have to read the book to understand all of the web that is interconnected with that. But at the base of that particular person's immovability was fear.
yes.
And it reminds me of a comment that an old friend once said to me about her aunt, who was a fantastic violin player.
Yeah.
And she had the chance to actually sort of, have a really good career, being in one of the international orchestras and live her dream, because you don't get to be a good violin player by accident. You do work at it, even if you just remain a hobbyist.
Yeah.
And she was definitely had the skills, the talent to be more than a hobbyist. But she, for whatever reason, and we suspect it's fear, I never spoke to the lady herself, but she commented to her niece, my friend, that it was better for her to live with the dream of the possibility of being an international orchestra playing lead violinist than to try it and fail and have it removed from her. And I thought that was one of the saddest things I'd ever heard.
I think it's tragic that it comes back to, if you believe you can't, that's a done deal, it's your reality. If you believe you can and you're open to the possibility and prepared to put the work in, then dreams have the potential to become your reality.
But she was, according to the story, she was so determined not to lose that sort of, jewel of a dream.
Yes.
And she felt that living it would ruin it.
Yes.
And I can see the logic, but I cannot feel the reality of that. And it's so bonkers to me. I almost have deep respect for it.
Well,
it's just too nuts.
What can I say?
To not live your dream because you're fearful that you might not be as good as you'd hoped.
But you see, in essence,
because you're fearful.
That's what most people do.
Yeah.
That people, I mean, and of course when we're little, you want to be an international footballer, you want to be famous, you want to do this, you want to do that. And it changes, for most children, it changes week by week. But there are many young people who have a dream and that dream remains constant until it's beaten out of them by people raining on that dream and saying, yeah, but it's difficult, or you wouldn't be able to do that, or you're not clever enough, or you're not tall enough, or you're not whatever enough.
Yeah.
And
but
they
life
believe
is difficult,
that.
isn't it? I mean,
Of course it is.
There's not one person who I mean, we tend to pick on celebrities and famous people just because.
We know about them.
We know about them, yeah. But there's not one person who hasn't grafted at what they love to do, what their dream is. And if you've got a hold of anybody who you would consider, oh, you've achieved your dream, and actually spoke to them about the reality of what they had to do, and it wouldn't be a story of, oh, it was easy, I just floated around, hardly doing anything. All of them will have grafted through many, many, many more hours of challenge and fear, and a few moments of absolute clarity of this is why I do it. And that's, I think, is actually the reality of most things in life.
You look at somebody like J.K. Rowling. How many times did she present her books to publishers and get a refusal? But she had faith, and I think for me, that living your dream, making your dream, your aspirations a reality, are about having faith and taking action. Blind faith, I just have faith that there's, the heavens are going to open and a big thing is going to come down and I choose you. That's never going to happen. And then, on a day when I'm having a wobble about my mission and my purpose in life, I have to say there are times when I think, yeah, you're deluding yourself.
It is easier to give up on dreams in those moments, isn't it?
Of course it is. And, there are so many people who, if they have big dreams, have to be tenacious and persistent and bloody minded to actually get things working.
Even if you have little dreams, actually.
But I was going to say, for most people, they give up on the little dreams too.
Yeah.
And I don't want it to become judgmental. My dream is better than yours because it's more ambitious. seemingly.
Mm.
For me, I think, if you're listening to this, ask yourself, when was the last time that you did anything that made your heart sing?
Mm.
I know so many clients that come and we're talking about, what gives you joy? And they look at me and nothing. And then I say, well, take yourself back to a time when you experienced something that gave you joy.
Mm.
And it's very often something creative. I used to love to sing or to draw or to paint. I loved to dance. Well, when was the last time you did any of that? And those parts of themselves are being closed down. And I believe that creates a sense of dis-ease because you're not living authentically, genuinely who you are. I'm reminded of somebody I know, a good friend who has had really bad news in the sense that she's developed cancer. What I find fascinating is that since she's been diagnosed, she has done more creative, fun, adventurous things than in the 10 years before, because she's given herself permission to live fully. Isn't that a paradox?
Doesn't it make you think what silly little sheep we really are? that you have to get a big dong on the forehead that says, I can't remember who wrote the poem, but the one that says, and death whispered in my ear, live, for I am coming.
Yes.
It's like, it's such a truism, it's such a cliche, but we all often just fall into that, well, I've got time, and oh, it's a silly dream, and what if I don't? Well, what if you do, and actually it is a very short period of time that we have in each consciousness.
And I think what I'd like to put into the mix of all of this, it's often not achieving the dream, but it's the journey that gives us such growth and pleasure. You can sing without being an international opera singer or a famous pop star. You can go and sing and enjoy the beauty of being able to make a lovely noise and sing with other people. You can go and draw or paint. You may not be Michelangelo, but if you enjoy it and you are learning through it, does it matter?
No.
So, ultimately, what is your desire? What is it that gives you that sense of being truly alive, that gives you a purpose? Because if you're not allowing yourself to live in a way that encapsulates those things, it will be very, very difficult to achieve happiness, and certainly impossible, I would suggest, to sustain happiness. Because it's those things that feed our soul, that make us feel, I'm trying to think of different words, but they make us feel alive. There's a buzz about it, an excitement that drive that sense of happiness and joy and contentment and fulfillment.
Yes.
And, looking for the big result immediately, you're setting yourself up for failure. But enjoying the journey and enjoying the process of learning to be the best version of you as a singer, you as an artist, you as a whatever, that's where the jewel is. That's where the real treasure lies, I think.
Yeah, and any dream you want. If you want to be the best accountant in the world, most people would think of that as not being a very creative choice.
But if it's your choice.
But if it's your choice and you're creating it, then it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. Yeah. It is a creative choice because you are creating your purpose. You are manifesting it, making it real.
I'm really reminded of a guy that I met on an Anthony Robbins program, and he was a pilot. In fact, he flew Concorde.
A very rare breed.
Well, particularly as it was one of my that I wanted to fly on Concorde. Sadly, it went out of commission before I got to the point where I could do that. But I am hopeful that something of a Concorde's ilk will arrive again. But he was Asian and brought up in London in the 70s and 80s, when his view was Asian young men didn't become pilots,
Right.
and they certainly didn't fly Concorde.
So he was reflecting his social conditioning then, yeah?
Absolutely. And as a teenager, he had wanted to fly Concorde because he lived near Heathrow Airport and he'd seen it fly on many occasions, but dismissed it as not possible. A pilot who flew Concorde came into the school to do a talk. They were having a whole series of talks on professions. And the pilot spoke to the assembled group about his passion for flying. And after the talk was over, the guy that I'd met went up to the pilot and said, "I'd love to do that." And he said, "Well, it's up to you. If you work hard and you get your qualifications, then unless there's a physical defect, there's no reason why you can't." He said, "But I can't do that." And he said, "Well, somebody's got to fly Concorde. Why can't it be you?" Now, there was a paradigm shift in that guy's thinking. From "there's no way I can do that," it changed to "I'm going to do everything in my power to make that happen." And he succeeded. Why? Because he was open to the possibility that it could succeed, and he put the work in. I find it quite interesting if there's anything to do with The Secret or with abundance, where you if you look at posts on social media, they're the ones that will have millions and millions of viewers. So there are lots of people who dream of having abundance, who dream of being able to manifest the desires that they have. But I think there's something missing, and one of the reasons why so many of them don't achieve what they want is I'm not sure they truly believe that it's possible. That they'll perhaps do a meditation about "I want a Ferrari," and then there's an expectation that the Ferrari is going to turn up on their doorstep, rather than "I want a Ferrari." Well, actually, let's strategically plan and do the work in order to get that Ferrari, because it's entirely possible. But I think you have to take some responsibility for making it happen.
But there are a reason why houses are built with foundations that reach into the ground. Well, the modern ones anyway, nowadays. And that's because actually a lot of the joy of achieving your dream is actually in that graft of creating a massive foundation upon which it stands. And I know of this with my writing, my dreams around my writing, and I often do have daydreams around, "Oh, wouldn't it be nice if some agent plucked me from obscurity?" And whilst I acknowledge that would have its benefits, I do also acknowledge that if it comes too soon, if I haven't built foundations, if it is a flash in the pan, would I be happy with that scenario? Would I really want this sudden sort of miracle to happen without, might I actually, having had this miracle happen, arrive in a place where I felt I didn't deserve it because I hadn't put the work in? Might I actually be worse off, therefore, in my heart and my feelings around worthiness and do I deserve this? So, I mean, you shouldn't be too extreme, because you shouldn't dismiss miracles; they do happen. But I acknowledge that actually, when I'm feeling like, "Oh, I really wish somebody would just wave the magic wand and make this happen for me," that is my fearful side around trying to avoid the graft and the hard work and the social fear of reaching out and being vulnerable and
being rejected,
the potential for rejection and judgment and all of these sorts of things. And then I have to remind myself that there is great joy in grafting and just moving and meeting people and talking with people and connecting with people around whatever your thing is. Mine is writing and my stories, and that and that in actual fact, the things that I remember about my writing dreams, I don't remember the ranking numbers. I don't remember my volumes of sales very much, but I can remember the human connections that come with it. I can remember the comments that people said. And whilst I'm not saying, oh, you should never look at numbers, you should never measure, because obviously that's important. What I do acknowledge is that actually, as spiritual beings on the human plane, that what we're really after about is connection, and dreams that enable us to build connection with our fellow man are the ones that actually have the greater foundations.
I think that's very, very true. One of the things that I would really urge you to do, if you're listening to this, is when you turn this off, is to give yourself some quiet time and to think about, as a child, what were the things that really excited you, that gave you joy? And think about your life now, and how could you incorporate that level of joy into your life now? It may not be possible to do it in exactly the same way. If that joy was that, that was football and that you are now not fit, well, maybe the joy is not in playing football at an international level, but the joy is about getting outside and actually taking some positive steps to get yourself fit, and then looking at how you might use that. So, for example, playing walking football with a group of other people who are also not fit and wanting to get fit, and actually having the camaraderie, the team feeling around that. But looking for, okay, how do you create new dreams and aspirations? If somebody had said to me early on, your mission, your purpose is going to be to positively impact on 1 million people, I would have laughed at them. But what I recognise is through my whole lifetime that one of the things that's given me great joy is that ability to help people find happiness, maintain happiness, and to spread happiness to other people, which is about all the things that I do, whether that's on a personal level or a professional level. Watching leaders who have struggled to get people to behave in the way that they want to, that there's no cohesion, no sense of shared purpose, actually coming back and saying, do you know what, things are really flying, everybody's really engaged and happy. That gives me huge, huge joy. But I also get joy out of the little things. I ache today. We both do. We were both keen gardeners, and we were both in our gardens at the weekend, and inevitably did more than the body was actually happy to do. But again, great joy out of being in nature, about getting hands dirty in gardening. It doesn't matter what it is, so long as you're not hurting somebody else or the environment. What is it that gives you that real buzz, that sense of joy? And get out there and give yourself permission to have the time to do it. Make time to be the best of you, because the impact of that is far-reaching and positive in every area of your life. In your relationship with you, because you've given yourself permission to be genuinely who you are. Your relationships with others. If you'd like some help, then why not take a look at the Happiness Challenge. The book, there's a special edition with a journal, and journaling can be a really great way of identifying what it is you truly want, actually giving yourself that freedom to write. And you will find that on the website, which is genuinely-you.com. So go and have a look. You can take the 7-Day Happiness Challenge for free, but the book and the journal will give you a really great basis from which to start. You can find all of our books there, The Point of Me, The Truth of Her, which is Rachel's latest book. You can find Thriving Not Surviving, the 5 Secret Pathways to Happiness, Success and Fulfillment. But if you want to kickstart being happy, staying happy, and spreading happy, then go and look for the 7-Day Happiness Challenge, the special edition, on genuinely-you.com. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye now.